I wanted to share some experience I've had with AFib, atrial fibrillation, over the past 19 years. I had a second ablation surgery done June of 2018. I'll back up to the very first time I had it was 1999. Went to sleep at night. Everything, I felt normal, no problems. And then I woke up in the middle of the night with my heart racing, out of rhythm. I knew something was wrong, so I had my wife take me to the emergency room, in which they told me, you are in AFib, your heart's out of rhythm, and it's almost 180, 190 beats a minute. It does not feel good. You feel like you're going to pass out. Your heart hurts. It's a muscle. It's overworked, and it's just beating out of control. It's not beating bump, 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 bump. It's just erratic. Anybody that's had AFib will know it's not a good feeling. Really can't contribute at the point of what caused it. I wasn't really drinking. I wasn't doing any drugs. I worked out regularly. Was in pretty good shape. Sometimes people say caffeine can trigger it. Stress can definitely trigger it. So after the hospital visit, I left. I was on medication for a couple weeks. I did not like how the medication made me feel. So the other option was to have an ablation surgery. I had good insurance, so I went ahead and booked that. And I had the ablation surgery probably 2 months later. And I was good for the next probably 9 years. Never had any other problems. No AFib whatsoever. No symptoms, nothing. And then out of nowhere, it came back in 2009. I was going through some stressful times, and it came out of nowhere. Ended up back in the emergency room. Ended up staying there a couple days. After a couple days, came home from the hospital. I was on some new medication, and it pretty much kept it under control. But the medication came with a lot of side effects. Tired, run down, no energy, no drive. Took about a month to get used to the medication. For the most part, didn't have any AFib for a while. Fast forward, I don't know, after maybe 3 or 4 years, I started getting, I would have a couple episodes every few months. And I think I can attribute some of it to when I was overly stressed, it would also trigger it. So what's causing the AFib is you have extra electricity in the pulmonary veins. They have extra electricity that shoot off. I've done hours and hours and hundreds of hours of research on AFib, trying to figure out the cause, and there's just extra electricity in those areas of your atrium. So after a while, the medication just it would work for most of the time, and then when I would stress out, I would go out of rhythm. Then I would have to basically self-medicate myself, take some extra atenolol to slow down the heart rate, and hope that it would go, and then the flecainide would keep it in rhythm. So after a while, I kind of self-medicated myself instead of going to the emergency room and spending a day or two until they could get my heart rate under control. So I can attribute stress to it. You can read where it says alcohol may cause some issues with the AFib, caffeine, but I think if you have AFib, atrial fibrillation, I think it's just part of the makeup of your heart, extra electricity that we have, and really nothing you did to cause that. So I guess try and stay stress-free, watch your drinking, extra caffeine. You do what you can, you learn to live with it, and then go from there. The medication sometimes helps, sometimes it doesn't. if you can deal with the medication and it works. If not, check into getting the ablation surgery. I think is pretty effective. I ended up having a second ablation summer of last year because the medication stopped working after all the years. My body must have got used to it. So I had a second ablation done in June of 2018. Now it's been a year and I'm just on the blood pressure medication and no more rhythm medication right now. I do notice when I stress or have too much caffeine or things like that, I get little irregular beats and fast beats. So I'll be doing some follow-up videos talking further on what you can do on the natural side to help with your AFib.